Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm back with another video. It is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. And there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, which have come up in conversations with different people, and also recent news items. I think, to top it off, what has been going on is we have this back and forth of constant narrative shifts. Trump's going to invade. Not going to invade. He's going to give them a chance to negotiate. He's not going to give them a chance to negotiate. He's going to obliterate Iran as a civilization. He's giving a pause to the ceasefire. So it's probably no wonder that people are in a state of confusion, probably because the people who are actually running this whole thing, they're confused as well. They don't know what to do because what Trump thought was that Iran was Venezuela and that he'd go in, he'd do a decapitation strike, and the people in Iran would rise up against their cruel rulers, and everything. They'd walk in, and Trump would ride into Tehran in an open limousine with flowers thrown at him from thousands and millions of grateful Iranian people. And of course, that didn't work because his own misunderstanding of what Iranian culture is about is dramatically different from what Venezuelan culture is apparently about. There's another issue here, and I just sent another letter to my congressperson talking about this stuff. My congressperson wrote he sent out an email about an art exhibition. I wrote him back and I said, excuse me, the cost of gas is at least $5 in my hometown in California. This is not acceptable. And we've got incipient wars going on in Ukraine. Trump said he was going to end that war in a day, and here we are. It's no closer to resolution than it was the day he stepped into office. Trump thought that he was going to, get Iran's oil. That was he said, we have to get rid of Iran's nuclear weapons, and the first thing I'm going to do is to snatch Iran's oil. So let's see, which one is it? Is it the non-existent nuclear weapons, or the nuclear material that Trump presumably blasted into oblivion? How are you going to collect dust? He's going to bring in with a giant vacuum cleaner or something. It's ridiculous. When he needs the oil, he needs to control the oil supply, because if he controls the oil, he can control the price of oil through the use of the US dollar. That's what it's all about. And meanwhile, of course, he's got his sidekick Netanyahu and his religious fanatics who have their own ideas about a greater Israel, and they want to knock down the Al-Aqsa Mosque and create the third temple so that they can do ritual sacrifices of animals. I mean, there's a word called reactionary. I used to think of reactionary as meaning, going back to, the 1950s or something like that. They're talking about going back to the 19th century before the Common Era or something. So these people are true reactionaries, and they're willing to build the Greater Israel on the bones and blood of Palestinians and their Arab neighbors. And it's tragic because there was a case to be made after World War II that the refugees from the Holocaust needed a place to stay. There were countries that were willing to take them, some with more willingness, some with less. But anyway, here's Palestine. Some Jews could have elected to go there, but that's not what they wanted. The U.S. wanted an unsinkable aircraft carrier in the Middle East. The British had their eyes on Palestine because they're trying to control the Middle East for the British Empire. So that's why Israel was created, and they conveniently used these extreme racial supremacists as vectors to terrorize the Palestinian population and ultimately to terrorize everybody else in the neighborhood, including Lebanon and Syria and Iran, and so on and so forth. But what I want to bring up is the fact that Trump had given Iran there's like 2 more days before the ceasefire ended, and then we had to assume that all hell would break loose. And the Americans are sending in massive amounts of armaments into the staging area. But when Trump says he's staging he says we're going to make an indefinite ceasefire. So everybody goes, oh, Trump chickened out. He's going to do a ceasefire. There's no limit to when it's actually going to end. But what he's actually saying is it could end next century, or it could end in the next 5 minutes. An indefinite extension to the ceasefire doesn't mean anything. But again, I've always told people that when you are looking at, when you're trying to understand a political process, you have to see what is actually happening on the ground and not listen to what people say. So we know for a fact that there's massive amounts of weapons coming into the area around Iran, and Iran knows this. And Iran is saying, why negotiate with people? That's what they should have said in the first place. People say, oh, Iran is unreasonable. Well, no, you attacked our country. We will decide what we do. And you don't have to moralize to us about our reaction to your unwanted attack, our wanton, totally illegal attack on Iran. So, people need to, when a country is attacked the way Iran was attacked, and it has been under attack for 47 years since the United States lost control of it when the puppet was kicked out. Iran has been its own country, and the U.S. absolutely cannot tolerate any kind of sovereignty by any country anywhere. That's what's going on as well with Russia and with China and with Venezuela and any number of other countries. That's what it's all about. So we have to consider this issue of whenever you hear any words coming out of the mouth of a U.S. politician, you have to take them with a large, what can I say, Mount Everest size chunk of salt. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. And the second thing I want to talk about is information war. And the United States, one of the most important aspects of U.S. foreign policy has been information. And there's been a culture war going on literally for centuries, where the West's culture foisted itself on the rest of the world and said that our Western culture is superior to yours. We're smarter than you. We're morally superior to you. And here's our culture, and you should follow our culture. And a lot of people really fell for it. But the problem is that, what has been the consequence to those countries? Well, they've been kept in subjection, literally for centuries. So finally, the Chinese threw the white devils out under the evil Mao Zedong, who realized that there's only one language that the Western countries understand, and that is to be physically ejected from their country. Excuse me. Same thing happened with Vietnam. Same thing happened with Afghanistan, and even to a lesser extent with Iraq, which, even though it was invaded and occupied, they've been gradually managing to eject the Western countries from there, and presumably from the Middle East, or we can say West Asia. But the issue here is regarding the information war, is that the West has been foisting its information, or I should say disinformation, on its targeted countries for a very, very long time. There's been, books that have castigated the United States, castigated Russia, or Iran. The latest example with Iran was, Iran killed 40,000 of its people. Where did that number come from? It just came from somebody's head. Or Stalin killed 100 million Russians. Well, if Stalin killed 100 million Russians, how did they manage to defeat the Nazis? What soldiers did he have to fight the Nazis with? Obviously, the people of the Soviet Union got their act together and kicked the butt out of the Germans, who were backed, by the way, Hungary and Bulgaria, and mercenaries from France and Sweden and Denmark and Holland. There were a lot of Nazi sympathizers fighting on the side of the fascists, the Germans, the Italians, the Romanians. So now what is happening is you have NATO saying we're preparing for a war with Russia in 2030. That's like announcing that you're saying we declare our war on Russia, but we're not quite ready to do it. So Russia, get ready because we're ready. We're about to invade you. That's what they're saying, and Russia is saying to its people, excuse me, but our country is under attack, and they're actually trying to take us down, and we cannot just be. It's not business as usual. Let's put it that way. So because of that, there's evidence that it's becoming more restrictive in Russia in terms of information. But it's also true that the United States has been severely restrictive of information from Russia and from China. Why is it that there's been so little support for Russia's position on Ukraine? It was the Ukraine, fascist coup in 2014, supported by the United States. It was Joe Biden was right there, saying go ahead and overthrow the government. But for some reason, Western audiences just don't hear that, and they say, oh, Russia invaded Ukraine unprovoked. So this is a huge problem in the West, that the West constantly lies, and unfortunately, because borders have been open, that people in other countries often believe those lies. So that's the problem. Whereas in the West, countries like Russia or China or Iran or Serbia, in the case of the Serbian War and other wars, try to tell the truth, and it's blocked. But the people in the West are so brainwashed by the idea that they have a free press that they believe the lies that they're told. So it's a very strange situation where if you tell the truth, you're criticized for blocking out lies, whereas in the West, if you tell lies, you're not allowed to tell the truth. Do you see where I'm going with this? So that's the problem that we're facing here. And I was just referring earlier to a case study of this, where during World War II, Hitler had his bunker, and he hired a young girl who was like a young woman, 22 years old, I think, to be his personal secretary. So she was right there in the middle of all these Nazis, and she thought everything was just fine. And then after World War II ended and she realized what was going on, she became extremely remorseful and embarrassed. And this was in a video that she made, this was like, 50 years later. She said that the Scholl family, Sophie Scholl and her brother, I think she had a couple of brothers and some other people, knew what was going on. They knew of the atrocities that the German military was committing in Europe, and she was trying, and they were trying to spread this information. So they had something called the White Rose Society, and they had great difficulty printed out leaflets, and they were spreading these leaflets around, saying to the German people, "Hey, look what's happening here. We need to do something about this." And eventually, unfortunately, they slipped up. They were caught, and they were executed. Practically, given some summary trial, 10 minutes or something, and then they're just killed. But they knew, and after the war, the German people said, "We didn't know." Well, you could have known if you wanted to know. This is the problem. This came up recently with Tucker Carlson. He said, "I believed Trump and he betrayed me." And to which I say, sorry, Carlson. You should be a better judge of character. Here's this guy. He's surrounded. His mentor was Roy Cohn, which is the sleaziest, most terrible person, produced in the legal world of the United States in a long, long time. And he got his education from this guy. He had a terrible reputation in business, and yet Trump says, "Oh, I'm going to change things. We're going to have peace with Russia." All this. He made a lot of promises, and these people who said they overlooked his terrible character and assumed that he had made a turnaround in his political beliefs. And as I was remarking to a friend of mine, it's kind of like, Hannibal Lecter being in prison and saying, "I've seen the light and now I'm going to be like Mahatma Gandhi." Leopards don't change their spots. Trump is who he is. He's always been who he is. He's completely, unpredictable and unreliable. But because people's political careers and their careers in media depended on supporting that particular horse, the Trump horse, they went along with it. And now that the whole thing is blowing up in their face, they're saying, "Oh, we didn't know." Sorry. This is a character flaw in these people who say they didn't know. People need to really exercise what I say over and over again, people need to exercise their critical thinking. All these people who were, great, even military experts saying, "Oh, we thought Trump was going to do something. He was going to turn the page." And I'm saying, you guys, just look at the person, look at his behavior, look at his character. You can see the person is not reliable. And yet people will fall for it for whatever reason, either because they're seriously naive, or they have opportunistic stake in it. So that's the problem. So those are the things that I want to talk about today. It's been a while since I've been on. I've been kind of busy with some other things. I still have to finish my taxes, and I've had some health issues that I need to resolve, which seem to be resolving, fortunately. But anyway, at this point, I just wanted to check in with all of you, because these are topics that I think they're going to be coming up. I was just in contact with Gilbert Doctorow, and he's going to be doing a video about some of these topics with Judge Napolitano later today. So anyway, thanks again for listening. Be sure to support my channel by giving me a like or a share or a comment, or do something to support my channel, because I think I have some insights that I come at things from a different point of view. Let's put it that way. People have their own careers. My career is one of just seeking truth. That was what I started out with as a young adult, why I became a monk, and I still maintain that. We simply have to maintain the truth, be honest with ourselves. Oftentimes we're not honest with ourselves, and we have to hold our leaders accountable. So thanks again for listening, and I will talk with you again soon.